And we're live. Welcome back, everyone. This is Doc Williams with the Toolkit, and we have the pleasure to be with, AJ, introduce yourself. Who are you?
My name is AJ Richards. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm the owner of Rush Club Human Performance Center. It's a functional fitness training gym here in Mesa, and the founder of an event called Rush Club, a head-to-head weight class-based competition for functional fitness.
Awesome. Yes, it's great to have you. And you know what? This is a little bit of a throwback. Did you know you were my very first interview when I was working at ESPN in Breaking Muscle, actually?
Dang, I remember the interview, but I didn't know I was the first, so that's an honor.
Yeah. And you know what, guys? You don't even know how patient AJ was because my laptop died 3 times in that interview, and AJ had to restart the entire thing. Like, if
I remember that.
It was terrible. I felt so bad. I was like, this is it. He'll never talk to me again. That was terrible.
That's awesome.
If you go back on this page, like I keep it up for posterity, but like the very first one, you will see the 3 outtakes. And each interview was an hour or so, and AJ still hung in like a trooper. So I am incredibly indebted to you for the rest of my life for doing that and not killing me, because that was terrible. So today we have AJ back on the program. We're going to be talking about, and we'll, let AJ introduce, but he's been everywhere and you'll hear his experiences. This is really for you guys to take the notes, really take the time to really see how you can be thinking outside the box and really expanding your brain, a brand and your brain. And we'll get into this real quick. So before we start, we're going to talk about the Toolkit Summit. I'm going to share my screen. And AJ, can you see that?
I can. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get through this, guys. All right, so welcome again to the Toolkit Summit 2017. If you can believe it, guys, this is our 2nd year in a row doing this. And, well, first of all, why are we doing this? Who is this for? It's for fitness professionals bridging the gap to grow their business. That's you, how you change, you take the tech and the strategy together all in one place. So many times you see so many different ones talking about just giving you strategy, but you don't know where to go and you feel frustrated. We're bringing you the best of the best. We're bringing ones like AJ Richards, AJ Roberts, Travis Mash. We're bringing Christmas. We're bringing all that, getting their strategy, and then we're combining the tech to get you to your goals. So that's for the fitness professionals out there. And for the summit, what we're talking about, if you don't know if it's for you, of 3 main areas so you know it's for you. If you're thinking about changing your passion for fitness into a business, this is for you. If you're trying to create a side hustle, you've got people asking you questions, they're asking you for advice, and now you're trying to make a go at this, this is the right summit for you. And the last of all, if you're frustrated, you're building your business in fitness right now, but you're having a lot of angst, you're having anxiety, you just want to put your head in the sand, we're building this summit to answer those questions for you to really understand how to build and expand your business. So right now, this is talking about how to create a functional fitness live event. We have Rush Club. We have the CEO, AJ Richards, to talk about that to you. So AJ, take it away. The floor is yours.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for having me on, Doc. So yeah, as you mentioned, this is about creating a live event. Something that I've learned quite a bit about over the last 5 years, and there's still, the thing about this type of industry is there's still a lot more to know. A good friend of mine, he's actually become my mentor, runs one of the largest car hauling companies in the world, and he's the CEO of the company. He came to one of my events, and afterwards he's like, "You have way more going on than I do," which I don't think is true. I think he's given me the benefit of the doubt, but there's just a lot, right? So when you do a live event, you've got to wrangle the participants of the live event. You've got to figure out the broadcasting of the live event, how many cameras you want, what the sound quality is going to be. I mean, it's just, the list is endless. The most important thing about putting on a live event is it's not possible without the right team. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So one of the lessons I had to learn early on is not wanting to wear the S on my chest, right? Like, I can do it all. I can handle it.
AJ,
when I tried to,
real quick, could you bring us back to that point when you were just trying to run the whole show? Where were you? Was this the first part of Rush Club, or was this something even before Rush Club?
It's probably safe to say before Rush Club, it's kind of like my personality. Like I don't need you. I'm going to do it my way. Right. Type natural reaction I have. That now that I'm aware of, I can be more powerful because I'm like, yeah, there's that thing I do. And I certainly don't want to do it all. So I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one specific example of it. I just know that there have been times where I'm extremely overwhelmed and people on the sideline waiting for me to ask for support, right? Hey, let us help you. And having the confidence that those people can do the things that you want to do as good, and in some cases better than you can. As long as I can translate the vision to that person, they have the skill sets to accomplish the task. So, for example, it might be, for example, promoting the event, right? So we did a show a year ago in Clearwater Beach, Florida, and we tried to promote the event ourselves, thinking that this is what we do, and it flopped. It was terrible. We're $55,000 in the hole from that single event because we went from Phoenix all the way to Florida. And I mean, there's a lot of things that led up to the failure of that event, but one of the things that we certainly didn't do was bring on a local promoter. For a little bit of time there, I was actually working with Eric Bischoff, the former president of WCW. And so he even flew out, came and saw the show. And after we got our ass handed to us, I said, Eric, I need some advice, man. What the hell did I do wrong here? Why did we flop? And he said, AJ, you never promote your own show. You always find a local promoter that knows the audience, knows the conversation that happens in that area and how to engage with people. And that's how you always want to do it. He said, we never promoted WCW. It was always a local promoter who had the audience and the engagement. So that was a lesson that we learned. And it was a very expensive lesson, right? So, but we learned from it. So we now never promote our show outside of Phoenix. If we travel outside of Phoenix, we're definitely finding a local promoter, somebody who's engaged with the audience and the crowd that we're looking to connect with. And then we'll work out and negotiate a deal with them to where they can share in the benefit of it, but they take on the ticket sales and promotion.
Excellent. So we see that there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that are necessary. Let's go back, and you were talking about it. Let's talk about the team aspect first. Could you talk about how you made a team at first, and how did they support you for the growth of Rush Club?
Yeah, so I'll just take it right back to the beginning. So it was an idea. What if we put athletes head to head, right? And this was even pre-weight class. This was a tournament style. 4 men, 4 women. They compete, and at the end of the night, the 2 that did the best would have ended up doing only 2 competitions, right? So single round elimination. And we did that for 12 shows. We cranked out 12 shows in 2013, and it was cool. It was fun. But right off the bat, I knew that I didn't have the organizational skills to make sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. I'd have been dotting T's and crossing I's. That's just the ball gets dropped when I'm in charge of the simple details to make sure things get done, right? So I'm certainly the vision behind what we do, and then I'm on the microphone, so my job, vision, athletes, microphone, period. Everything else about Rush Club is not me. I might be the face of Rush Club. I might be the promoter of Rush Club, similar to Dana White in the UFC. But behind the scenes, there's a massive team making sure tickets are sold, videos are edited, promotions being done, venues are being booked, all of these things, right? Even fighters are being found. So it takes a team to build something like what we're doing in order to get that exposure out there and have it be a success. So early on, I identified that these are the weaknesses I have. One of them is organization right off the bat. The second one was IT, building a website, controlling that, ticket sales, things like that. And then the third was creative. Video editing. Good video and good photos are key to promoting live events. And then after the events, to be able to take that content from the event and have it be seen beyond that is also very important. So having key players in those roles were very important. So Stacy Snyder, one of the cool things is, so everything started in my gym first. Concept all the way to creation. And the best part about this for me is it is and was members of my gym community who stepped up to take those roles on. And they were all very, very good at what they were doing. It was amazing. So for our creative director, for example, his name's Kevin Korzik, Emmy-nominated creative director. This guy does primarily architectural videos, but he does them for almost every major sporting complex in the country, essentially for the engineering team that goes in and bids these big projects. And so he has the skill set, the equipment, and the vision, right? And so this guy, even though he's in the architectural world, this show gives him the ability to play in the creative world. So it's one thing to do videos for building a building, but it's another thing to do something for entertainment. So for him, this is a hobby that he really gets to put his creative viewpoint on, and he loves it. And came right from my gym. And I absolutely needed that role filled, because if you look at the Rush Club content, I would venture to say that it's some of the most compelling content you'll find in the fitness market. The head-to-head component and the environment that we put this in, they call us the Fight Club of fitness for a reason. It feels like that at some point, right? The venues we go in, it feels like you're at a fight club and you're watching two athletes competing in fitness. And so we were able to create something unique. But again, it took that team. Stacy Snyder, president of the company. When I identify athletes to come and compete, somebody's got to send them waivers. Somebody's got to get their flights and hotels booked. That's one of the things that's unique about our event in the functional fitness market, is we cover all flights and hotels for athletes. We want to treat them like professionals. So they don't have to pay to be here. If you're here, I've scouted you, found that you deserve and earned let me change that. Nobody deserves anything. Found that you earned the right. And then because you earned the right, we feel like we should be able to cover your expense to be here. Not, hey, Doc, you're killing it, man. We'd love for you to compete. Join us, November 11th, and then leave the rest up to you.
And that's somebody's got a portion. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
Think about that there's a lot of marquee events. They'll say, and even some of even Olympic weightlifting, a lot of times if you don't have the stipend, you have to find your way. You have to fund your own thing. So that's a huge accomplishment that you guys provide.
Yeah. And it really comes down to, when we started this thing, we had three main priorities, and they were all based around experience. So we wanted to create an experience for these three categories. First and foremost, the experience of the athlete. It was extremely important for us that the athletes, when they came out, they got an experience like they've never had before. So that means trying to remove as much of the stress and tension off of being there as possible, right? So a lot of times that's financial. If they have to take work off to be here, they shouldn't have to take work off to be here and pay their way. So the athlete experience was first and foremost. Second one was audience experience. Whether you're spectating online or in person, making sure that you walk away and say that was one of the most incredible experiences you've seen. And so in that aspect, we look at lighting, sound, venue. We want to overwhelm the senses so that when you're there, you're just like, whoa, everything is being attacked. There's a smell, there's a sound, there's a visual. We want to hit as many senses as possible, so you just walk away. Our mission is to touch, move, and inspire people to action. And when we attack those senses, you're going to walk away and you're going to go in to get into action, right? And that's one of the coolest things that we've experienced. Feedback from the audience. We had a competitor. She said, I've been competing in functional fitness for 2 years trying to get my sister involved. For 2 years, she came to one Rush Club and started on Monday. That's a huge success story for us that we really cherish. So that shows me that we're, one, accomplishing the experience of the spectator, and then on the feedback from the athletes, we get feedback all the time about how incredible it is. From athletes like Lindy Barber, Sam Dancer, Jen Dancer, we've got big level athletes playing on our stage, and we get positive feedback from them, even in comparison to some of the largest stages in the world, like competing in the CrossFit Games or competing in Wodapalooza. My little show is able to hang with the experience, which is a thing of pride for me as well. And then the third thing is experience of the volunteer staff. So a lot of our show is still run by volunteers, and we also want that to be an experience. And not just the staff that directly supports Rush Club, but also the staff of the venues we're in. it's important to us that when we do a show in a venue, that the people that are working the door, taking tickets or wanting people for, checking for weapons or whatever, that when we leave, even those people, even the janitor that sweeps up after us, even as simple as the people that we hire to bring tables and chairs or, bleachers or whatever, any component that has supported by another company, we want them to walk away from working with us and have had an experience that has them excited to pick up the phone the next time we call. And so those are the three things that we really focus on when we put on a live event. And I think based off of that, that's why we've been able to grow it to where we're at. We started this thing, Doc, with $40. I bought a roll of caution tape and 4 construction lamps from Home Depot. We went into a local gym, turned the lights off to make it feel like Fight Club, and that's how it started. Now, here we are, 250,000 spectators online, 600 to 700 tickets sold in-house for a 2-hour show that's all geared around entertainment. And it started from $40. And it doesn't happen that way unless you treat absolutely everybody you come across with the most respect possible and just do right by people.
That's great. I mean, seriously, that's a dream story right there. I mean, so now that's like the 10,000 feet view of looking down, right? So
yeah.
So
you want to get in the mud? Is that what you're saying?
Let's do it. Let's do
okay.
it. So,
all right.
From going from, let's see, the first couple events now, because they were local, they were quick, they were dirty. That's fine. Now, what happened when you were trying to scale and getting in bigger venues? What were some of the pain points that you had to learn going through that?
Yeah, so the first 12 events we did, like I said, they were not weight classes. And always in the back of my head, there was a conversation in functional fitness that broad categories of athletes wasn't fair, right? Now, I think that what the CrossFit Games does is incredible. The test of fitness, and I've got nothing to say about that. That's their show, and I think they do a great job by it, having heats of athletes and that kind of stuff, right? So I'm close enough to it to know why they do it, but so I don't think that they need to be weight classes. I think they do it the right way. But in the back of my head, there was the question, what does pound for pound look like? What does pound for pound, what would that do for the world of functional fitness if we created a show that was pound for pound? And in the early days of what we created, I didn't think I was the right guy to do that. Who am I to question and add weight classes? Because while so many people would say there should be weight classes, there was also just as much pushback saying, no, this is the test of the fittest. And it took me realizing that, one, anybody can be that person. It's a decision in the mind. It has nothing to do with you as an individual. I had a life coach who had a rule. It's called the one sphincter rule. Everybody you meet has one sphincter. The only difference is how they think. It's what's between the ears, right? So you could be talking to Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Dana White, Greg Glassman, Joe DeSena, because I know he's on this. The difference is what's between the ears, but we all have one sphincter. So in other words, don't give somebody more power over you or more credit than what you have to offer, because it's only a transformation of the mind that takes that happening first. Once you have that down, then it's the mind, the power of the mind that matters, and everything's good to go. So I finally had sort of an awakening to that and said, I'm that guy. I'm going to question. I've already doing this head-to-head thing, and it'll be much easier if we put it in weight classes. And I can make enough divisions for athletes to someday actually get paid and make a living for being the champion of their weight class. So now we have 19 divisions. That means potentially, as we grow, 19 different people could make a living full-time doing functional fitness. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take entertainment, and it's going to take spectators to want to support that athlete, right? So anyway, that's the first thing, identifying that you could be the person. And so it took me a whole year, 12 shows to finally do that. So then August of 2013, we went weight classes. And then it became, how do we scale this thing to be seen? And then because we have so many more divisions, now it's a lot more expensive. So our biggest challenges have been sponsor dollars, because at the same time we started our show, social media really started taking off for individual social media influencers. So there was a time where the only way for a brand to get recognition was commercials and airtime on like half times or in between events for live events, right? Or television. There was a time where that was the only way that if you owned company X, you would get exposure by sponsoring events. Well, now because of social media, one of the best examples, because we work with Christmas Abbott, I can go to company X and tell them, hey, it's $5,000 to sponsor this show that pays for athletes, flights, hotels, and prize purses. And it's a singular event. Or they could go to Christmas Abbott, who has 500,000 followers, pay her $5,000 and have that be extended over multiple posts and exposure. And so now they're paying the same for her with more impressions than they're going to pay with me in this early phase. So for me, our biggest challenge is funds, money to keep. And we never had a large investment, borrowed some money. We're probably in the hole 75, well, not probably, I know. We're in the hole $75,000. I'm personal guarantor on all that. So I'm putting everything I've got into this thing that it's going to be something someday. And it's because I can't get sponsors to cover it because the market is shifted. They don't have to pay me as an event to get their brand out there. And frankly, it makes sense why they do it. I see the value in somebody like a social media influencer over an event. So that's been one of our biggest challenges.
Well, you know what? I think that's awesome that you talk about it, right? Because a lot of times people hear, oh, it's really good. He had this idea. You just streamline some things, yada, yada, yada. You start making money, and then that's it. Could you talk about the component of what sponsorship does in order for the expenses of the show? Like, where does it go?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, because here's it's kind of a catch-22, right? So the athletes that we have on our stage, they get the followers they have because they're on stages like ours and Wodapalooza and Rush and CrossFit Games and so on. Those events don't get the funding that they need from sponsors, then the athletes that they're sponsoring don't get the exposure they need to have any value either. So I know that we're not the only event out there. And so for me to say that as a singular event, it doesn't carry a lot of weight, right? But if I can't keep putting this show on and building the exposure of the athletes on our stage, then it doesn't matter that you're sponsoring that one athlete. Eventually, they're going to fizzle out. As an example, I'll use one of our divisions because we're head-to-head and we're weight classes. And, well, just really because we're head-to-head in fitness, we have multiple divisions for adaptive athletes. Now, our adaptive athlete divisions, these are elite-level athletes. You would put them in the same category as a Lindy Barber, as a Sam Dancer. They're just a different division. I mean, they're really incredible athletes. They could beat 99.9% of the community out there in a head-to-head workout modified the same way, right? So that division of athlete is still on the up and coming. So when I talk to a company that says, hey, we're already sponsoring these athletes, I'm like, great, I totally get it, and they need your support. And if I can't keep putting my show on and growing their exposure in a very legitimate and respectful way, then they're not going to grow their following. So then there's no them either. So that's kind of one of the things that we try to have a conversation with these sponsors. So when somebody pays us money, not a single penny of that goes into my pocket or anybody on my team. It goes to flights, hotel, prize purse, production costs, right? So production costs run anywhere from $15,000 and up just for the camera crew. And that's, by the way, if you know the market, like I was talking to the guys that were part of Grid a year ago, they were spending $100,000 or something like that an hour for broadcasting. So
yeah,
we were doing pretty good at $15,000 for the entire production, right? But still, that has to come from somewhere. It doesn't matter that we're a fraction of the cost of what they were spending. If it's not there, it's not there. So that's where the money goes. It goes to the expenses to put the show on. And then as we increase the value of those sponsor dollars, our price purse is going to increase. Rush Club won't take money from sponsor dollars. We'll get that through broadcasting, pay-per-view, product sales, things like that, right? Dollars that help actually produce and cover the cost of the show.
Now, let me ask you something. Thank you for explaining that, because now people, if you're thinking about this, if you're like, I'm going to have something that's local, or I want to, I mean, just think about it. AJ, you said you've been spanning this. It's been about 5 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Think about, in 5 years, think about some of the different functional fitness events that have come and gone because of these models not adapting. We can think about
Right.
OC Throwdown used to be the biggest one, remember? And because of a lot of missteps, that's not the case. Grid, we were actually trying to get the MPGL on the summit. They had to take a season off before what they're going to do. These things are very expensive to do, and it's not something that you can just go by the seat of your pants, or maybe you'll do it 1 or 2 times, but it's not going to be something that can grow, and it's certainly not something sustainable. So, AJ, let's go into – oh, did I cut you off for a second?
No, I was just going to respond to that, and you might be asking the question, but I was just going to respond and say that some of the things that I've noticed is right about the time we started, within about a year of us doing what we did, people stopped showing up to spectate at competitions that were all day long, right? It's got to be entertaining, and it can't take their whole day. So if you think you're going to create an event and the money you're going to get from that is charging friends and family to come watch, just take that off the board altogether.
Good luck.
If it happens and it's, yeah, right. If it's happened, it's icing on if it happens, it's icing on the cake. But do not put that into your financial model, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing more annoying for me to go to a local throwdown and have to pay money for something that isn't geared for my enjoyment. Local throwdowns, those are there for the athletes. It's their competition, right? They got 3 or 4 heats all day long. So if I'm going in as a friend of somebody and I've got to pay $20, $25 to go in there, and there's not a spectator experience attached to it, like a vendor village and a beer garden and all those kinds of things, I'm pissed off that I had to pay to be there anyway, but I'm there because I'm there to watch somebody, right? And that might be okay. Well, I collected your money. Well, the next time your brand doesn't sit very well with me, right? That brand is annoying to me because, damn it, every time I go, I got to pay to watch, and there's nothing for me to do. Like, I'm sitting there, right? If you incorporate something that gives the spectator watching, like I said, like a beer garden or a vendor village where they can go and have fun, then that makes the reason to charge them legitimate, right? It says, okay, I'm paying for these experiences. And then, like I said, what we start seeing, I mean, here in Phoenix, Arizona, there was a point where we had 120, 150 affiliates right inside the Phoenix Valley. And there was a competition happening every single weekend, and you would go and you would see a few hundred people there, lots of spectators, because it was all new. This was this new thing everybody was excited about. And now when you go, there's hardly anybody there. You're just not going to see a whole lot of people. The only people there are the people competing. So we just had Europa Fitness Expo here in town this last weekend. And I met with the VP of Europa, Scott. Great guy. He asked what my opinion was on bringing functional fitness into Europa. And I know that what they want is to go through Europa to add value to the booth space that's there, right? So if you own a nutrition company, the only reason you're paying to be there is because Europa can say, hey, doc, there's going to be 50,000 people walking through here this weekend. That's the only value you would have to set up a booth. If it was 5,000 people walking through the weekend, you wouldn't waste your time. So they need to find events to bring in more tickets than just people participating. And I just told them straight up, I said, Scott, those days are over. You're not going to be able to put on an event here that you're going to see the competitor walk in with his wife and parents and kids and friends. You're just not going to do that anymore. So you have to find other ways to bring that exposure, to bring those ticket sales. So it is a changing market. And so that's why we went strictly with made for entertainment. Everything is made for entertainment. Every single aspect of our show is how can we entertain the audience. So,
excellent. I mean,
details, because that's proprietary. That's what I've been working 5 years on.
no, that's fine.
Think of as the audience.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Me and Danny Lear were talking about this. We were at an event, and we were talking about that CrossFit and functional fitness. If I say CrossFit 3 times, like, I get slapped with lawsuits. So functional fitness, when you talk about those different events, it's very similar to wrestling or BJJ tournaments. A lot of times it's just the competitor, and like you get the hardcores that are there all day in the tournaments. But for the most part, that's why UFC fans hate BJJ tournaments. Like, it's not really that entertaining. Maybe, the Grand Prix when it's, the at the end, what I'm saying, all day. But for the most part, people can't take it. And, the reason I loved Grid for so long, I remember it's a 2-hour event, right? And it was easy to follow. You knew where they were on the grid. And I tested it. Like, I would have people come over and I would not explain to them what was going on, and they could pick it up. And Rush Club is even faster than Grid. And people only have to pay attention to 2 people on the stage, unless, you do the teams, and that's, 4. But other than that, you understand what's going on, and you're walking through something that's very fast-paced. There's a counter, and you're done. So like you were talking about, AJ, solidifying yourself with having a great team, seeing where you need to go, and focusing, really doubling down on the marketing trends. You're not stuck with having a product where you're very rigid. You have seen a lot of evolution with Rush Club, and I'm sure there's going to be more in the future. Could you talk about how do you find the team that is on board for that adaptation and not stuck in one way?
Adaptation in what way? Maybe I'm not understanding.
So, like, say for instance, and you tell me, like, cut it off, don't talk about this, but you talked about like the venues before, they were smaller. Then you tried something in Florida, not so great, but now doubling down in Phoenix, going back to the place where you had the most success. How do you have the team that will go with those changes?
Well, because everything we do is very open. It's those guys are some good friends of mine. And Mike Bledsoe described this method of running a business to me a long time ago called the holacracy method. Now, I'm probably going to just totally destroy the actual definition, but it worked in the way that I understand it. So I guess that's all that matters. So in other words, back in the day when a company started, you had the C-suite team and then the supervisors and down, right? It just trickled down and everything went top to bottom. And if you were on the bottom, the only way you could move up is if somebody died, got fired, or quit. And so because of that, if you're my supervisor and you're screwing up, I'm going to keep my mouth shut if I see it, because I got to wait for you to get fired so I can advance. So there was no reward as a team for team effort. Whereas the holacracy method, as I understand it, is that if the janitor's sweeping the floor and has this aha moment that can make the company better, they have the ability to come straight to me, the CEO at the top or the VP or the president, and say, hey, I have this idea that I think would be of value. And then we as the executive team discuss that idea. And then rather than say, thank you, go back to sweeping floors, we're going to run with it, we say, hey, that's a great idea. How would you like to head that project up? And we're going to support you in that project with the other divisions of the company that you need, right? So it allows everybody in the organization to feel like they can contribute and be a part of something. And so with that being said, there is probably very few aspects of Rush Club that came out of this brain. Other than the beginning foundations of head-to-head competition and weight classes, most of what we do is an evolution of suggestions and recommendations by athletes, spectators, members of the team, all of that kind of stuff. And so because of that, because my ego's in check, and that's the S on the chest, if I didn't come up with it, I don't want to do it. Getting rid of that ego and saying, awesome, thank you for contributing. So that that has been one of the biggest assets, is letting people know that they can suggest and recommend anything, and we're going to test it. We'll test it. Now, sometimes people come up and they don't know the full vision, and so it doesn't make sense to what we're trying to accomplish. But they know that they at least know they can come back and keep coming back. And I've had people come up 3 or 4 different times, and we may not take an idea one time, but another time we will implement it. So
Excellent.
we just try to keep that available.
I love it. So that's great.
So one thing I want to say is that I would like to say is when we started Rush Club, it was a choice between head-to-head weight class competition or what we called the National Grinders League, which was a professional team event for each state to have a professional team and go head-to-head in a race to finish, which was grid. So we had this concept of these 2 different ideas. And with those concepts, I had to make a choice. So we ran our first Rush Club, and it was really good. And I had to go to the other team I had put in place for the Grinders League and say, hey, look, we did this Rush Club show. It was really successful. I'm going to pull out of the Grinders League. A week or 2 later, NPGL was announced. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness we didn't go down that road, because we would have got slaughtered right off the bat. I wasn't anybody with a name, so nobody would have heard from me, right? There was all these things that would have just kept what I was trying to do from being found. The other thing I learned when it started, and I learned that there was a $5 million investment to get going, I was so disappointed that it was them that got it and not me, right? Like I was just like, they only got it because they have a name on the board. Like, my idea is way better. Like, this was my early immature mind. Like, I have full respect for what those guys are doing and trying to do over there. So, but that was my attitude. I was like, damn it. If I had $5 million, I could this, and we would just crush it, and we'd be big as the UFC in 10 years, right? that was my mindset. And now, today, 5 years later, I am absolutely grateful that I didn't have that $5 million, because I would have made $5 million mistakes, right? I wouldn't have – the lessons that we've learned over time were so much less devastating because it was a shoestring budget. And we wouldn't exist. We would be gone if we would have had that money, because we would have made the same mistakes at a much higher level, and either I would be removed and not part of this, or the whole company would be gone altogether. So said – yourself the time to prove the concept.
That's perfect.
The time is right. Yeah, we'll have those results. Then you can start seeking funding, because you can back it up with some trial and error.
I think, let me tell you something, AJ. I love, first of all, I didn't know that story about grid. That's hilarious. That's great. But I mean, it really does speak volumes. Like you said, you have to have concept. You have to prove it. You've got to have that team behind you. And I really do believe, I think that's why we've gotten along so well, because we both believe in bootstrapping and just seeing how much we can just keep getting out of the shoestring before, expanding. So, but it shows the growth. Now, let's talk about a few things, and thank you for your time. We're almost done.
Yeah.
Could you talk about, so what was the biggest lesson you learned in the last 5 years in building Rush Club?
Ooh, man, that's a loaded question. Learn how to be tenacious, because you whatever you do, you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to get knocked down, and you're going to get knocked down. I mean, even today, we don't have a show that doesn't have something to learn from. So tenacity is still necessary. The ability to keep showing up after something doesn't go well, right? So, and then when you have the tenacity and you have your ego in check, it gives you a space to be able to look at the negative in a positive light. Okay, what can we learn from that so that we don't repeat that mistake again, right? Too many people try a couple things and then they give up right away, right? Or they put a lot of money in it early on because they think they know what they're doing, and they don't. especially when you're doing something that's never been done before. Now, you can go copy or try to copy Wodapalooza or try to copy the CrossFit Games and try to do it, exactly how they did it. But until you've experienced it yourself, you're not going to know what they know, right? That's the value in the people who run those organizations, is that there's so many things that they've learned that's here that they can't possibly put in paper. I was talking with Joe the other day, Joe DeSena. He said that, I told him, I said, dude, I'm having a hard time. Here we are 5 years in, and I feel like AJ has taken this as far as I can go. We have to have a capital investment or we're just done. We've built this absolutely amazing event. You can come to the event. November 11th is our next one. We're going to fill the house. We'll have a full house at 650 people. We'll probably have quarter of a million people broadcasting. And it's going to go off without a hitch because there's all these little things that we've learned over time that it's going to be an incredible show. And yet it still might be our last show because we're at the point where we can't grow without the right investment, right? So being patient to get there and learning. So I was talking to Joe and he goes, oh, I know. I've been doing this for 17 years. I was like, well, wait a minute. You're not an overnight success? Because what everybody else talks about is how Spartan Race went from here to here in 7 years. They don't know the backstory that Joe's been putting on races and trying different things for 10 years prior to that. Right? And so you have to be tenacious. You have to be able to get your freaking ass kicked and show up again the next day, Monday morning, after a terrible show or a terrible event and say, okay, what do we got to do to make this right? So another thing I want to share real quick, because this made a huge impact on my ability to see where the world was going. So we were paying $10,000 to $15,000 for a broadcast company and streaming on our own platform. Budget to pull people from Facebook where we were marketing over to a separate page, a separate streaming platform. And so we put on this incredible show that had amazing broadcast, great cameras. We had probably 7 or 8 different camera angles, play-by-play, cutaways, all this kind of stuff. And then I couldn't afford it for the show after that. So I was feeling like a failure because I couldn't afford all of that. I'm a veteran. And so as a veteran, there's an organization here called The Armory that helps give advice and mentor from an outside perspective, veteran-run businesses. And he said, Phil said, hey, why don't you just broadcast Facebook Live? And I was totally against it in the beginning. I was like, no, man. I used to have, we had 6 cameras. Like, if I don't do that, then it's a big step. I'm failing. It's a big step backwards. Like, my ego was like so challenged at that point, right? And it just came down to, no matter what, we didn't have the budget. I couldn't pull it out of anywhere. I couldn't borrow it. And so it came down to, okay, well, we either do broadcasting through somebody's cell phone or we do nothing. So we did. We broadcast through Christmas Abbott's Facebook page. She's a partner. She comes on the show. She's a co-host with me on the stage. And her ability, just like I said earlier with sponsors having more value paying an influencer, so do we. So when we realized, well, wait a minute, what if we bring Christmas Abbott and Derek White and have them broadcast the show live through their social media? And we found some software, Facebook through software, so we could still do some graphics and things like that. But now we went live instantly to 500,000 people. So we went from a viewing audience previously of 3,700 to the very next show, 50,000. And then the next show, 100,000. And then 150, and then 250, because we started seeing the value that sponsors see in influencers and incorporated that into our broadcast model. And that's more valuable to us than anything else. So you don't have to do everything top shelf in the beginning. It was totally free. It was completely free. And it was literally, that first one was literally a cell phone. I had a volunteer holding Christmas Abbott's cell phone, going from this athlete to this athlete to this back and forth. And we had 0 negative replies about what they were seeing. We didn't have that big of an audience in the beginning, right? Now, if you watch it, now that being said, if you watch an event that's really, really well produced, and then you go to something like that, and big, really well produced on a massive level, and then you go something like that, you're going to have some pushback. We weren't big enough yet to have the pushback, right? Only 3,000 people saw us prior, and now 50,000 saw us. And as far as they knew, that's how we always did it. So there was no comparison. Like, well, last time it was way better. They were just like, dude, this is cool. What's this thing? Think outside the box, because that's what it took. And now you guys, most people know that Facebook is in the streaming game on a big way. I mean, you go to that little icon at the bottom corner of your Facebook page, and there's shows geared straight for Facebook.
Yeah. So like you were talking about before, like we were saying, the landscape has changed in technology so quickly and being adaptable. Now they have Facebook Watch. I was watching the NBA, it was opening night, and they had Facebook Watch commercials for their program. So they had LeVar Ball and his family and everything, Ball and the family. They have exclusive shows on Facebook Watch now. So you being ahead of the curve, you trying things by necessity actually turned out really great.
Yeah. Well, when we were working with Eric Bischoff, we were actually working with him to try to get a reality TV show done. And everywhere that it was being promoted and pitched were all these dying platforms, and platforms that we knew we didn't want to be on. Regular television is what I mean. Right? Regular cable TV. And here I'm thinking, like, I'm building a company that I want to be around for 25 years, 30 years. Why are we trying to push it onto a platform that's not going to be around in 5? Because then we'll have to re-engage and move over and try to find Netflix or Facebook, or Apple just recently announced like $1 billion towards creating their own content. I want them first because that's where everything's going anyway. So. Perfect.
No, this is good. So AJ, we're going to get you out on one last part. So what is in store for Rush Club coming into the end of this year and then into 2018? What you got for us?
So we're going to finish up our last show this year, November 11th, Veterans Day. It's going to be a great show. Our main event is Derek Weida versus Marcus Hayward. These are two veterans that lost their leg above the knee in combat. The adaptive divisions, the way we see it, they're no different than the difference between a lightweight and a heavyweight. They're just no different. It's just a different division with a different programming, and these are elite level athletes. So we're going to wrap up the year with Rush Club 12 here in Phoenix, Arizona. One of the other things we realized too is the values in streams. So why travel and add so much more expense, like that Clearwater experience? So we're going to wrap that up, and then next year we're looking at a couple of options. One is much more appealing than the other. I don't think it matters to say this, but we're talking with Spartan Race to possibly do to tour the world with them and put on some entertainment for their races. So Rush Club would be the night entertainment during that. We'll see if that goes through. Joe and I are discussing that currently. And then Europa also is considering having us join them. They've invited us to join them on their circuit next year as well, if we want to do that as well. So a lot of things are up in the air. We are certainly looking at this point, like I said, we are at the point where we do need a significant capital investment by people that know the industry, can see the value in what we're doing. Taking it as far as we can go without that sort of support. So we're going to give ourselves one or two more shows to either raise some money or maybe just find somebody to acquire the property and take it on from here. And again, that's the whole ego in check thing, right? I don't have to be the one in charge of this to see it be a huge success. It's like when the Gracie brothers created UFC, they did what they could with it, and then somebody came in that had $44 million that they can lose before it did anything. Now, I certainly don't think that's going to be necessary for our property because we're not being labeled as human cockfighting. That's kind of a big hurdle to overcome with PR saying that. We don't have that same hurdle, but it is going to take somebody who can come in with a capital investment that says, okay, let's get the broadcasting, let's get the streaming platform foundations and things set up. But we're tenacious. We're going to keep showing up until we get what we need to have done to make this thing take off. And hopefully that means you guys all see me in Christmas Abbott, NBC Sports, Fox Sports, or something like that, hosting a Rush Club.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So, guys, remember, we're going to have the links below in the Toolkit Summit to make sure that you get all information for the upcoming show. And then also, too, we actually have a lot of fitness entrepreneurs, different ones that are fitness professionals. If you are the right type to talk to AJ and the team, make sure that you reach out to them. AJ, would it be best to contact them at which email address do you want them at?
Email me directly, aj@rushclubnation.com.
Awesome. So we'll make sure that we get that information down below as well. Remember, guys, what I love about AJ, you're telling it how it is. You're not just like, oh, we're kind of in this great spot. You're talking about real talk, showing the passion, what it took to get there, where that laser focus has gotten there. You've expanded, but also, just like every other brand, you also need to build upon it with other people and help when you find the right pieces. So if you think you're the right match for them, make sure that you contact AJ. We'll have all that information below. And guys, we're going to do a quick recap. And guys, don't forget, thank you, AJ. Thank you for your time. And let's do this outro real quick before we say goodbye to AJ. Okay. So guys, again, we had the time to really, you've picked AJ's brain. He's given you a lot of great content, how to create a functional fitness live event, and you really see what it takes. And it's not just going to happen overnight. It is going to take a lot of work, guys. So make sure that you took the notes, rewatch this. We're actually also going to make this an audio file for you to listen as a podcast, as you're driving, whatever you need to do, because you need to have this information to get to your goals. We get a lot of questions about this. So again, thank you so much, AJ, for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you. As we're talking about this in the fitness professionals, guys, we see the reason we have wonderful speakers such as Joe, AJ, Christmas, it's because we see fitness professionals don't know where to start in order to make money. You see so many different trends on the internet that looks like it's the best new thing, but there are just not a lot of things behind it, or not a lot of truth. As much as AJ was talking about the functional fitness events, if anyone looked at let's see, I think it was the Firefly events, the concert that happened last year, where they were trying to go to Jamaica and then you got there and nothing was on the island. That can happen to you if you do not know what you're doing in this space. We don't want this to happen to you listening to just everyone. It's time to actually get real information, not just from quote unquote fitness gurus, but real people. Also, there's no clear direction where to go, but here we have the information from some of the best in the world that have had the trials, tribulations, and know what's going on. We have AJ that came on today. Actually, Joe DeSena is going to be on later this week with Zach Evanesh talking about how he built Spartan races and those years of tribulation. And then the last one is talking about a plug and play product. Right now, there's nowhere on the market where you can just say, hey, I want this platform. Let's just get it out of the box and let's start. There's nothing like that exists. So we saw that. And what we did was we teach essential tech for fitness entrepreneurs. We show you how to run your online business and how to expand without needing to sell your left kidney in the process. Guys, AJ knows, so many people knows, tech is expensive. And just like us at the Toolkit, I buy 4 to 6 different software, SaaS products, hardware, just testing it out because there's so much. And we pass the information, what actually works, to you guys. So what we do here is the team is comprised of myself, Doc Williams, which I am the CEO, and then also the co-founder and the brand ambassador, that's Danny Lear, who is also the CEO of Caffeine and Kilos. We've been around the industry for decades at this point, and we have really collaborated where he's strong in apparel and growing a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Excel. I'm on the opposite spectrum and going into tech and running different programs. And because of that, we combined forces to make the toolkit. So very simple, guys. We used to have like 5 slides to explain what we do. This is all we do now. Our solution, we ID what you're struggling with. We either teach you how to get to your goals or we just build it for you. And the last part, just like how AJ was talking about connecting with Joe, really learning from other people, we connect you with the right people afterwards. That is the key to building your business. So that's what we're about with the Toolkit Summit. You can either pay for it, you can watch this for free because of our sponsors, Life Aid and Caffeine and Kilos and On It Academy, or, let us know how we can help and we'll see if it's a right fit. But remember, guys, we're trying to show you that there is a premier level of help out there. Don't just pick an ad that says you're going to make $10,000 next month as a trainer or opening up a gym that you're going to start somehow making a passive income of $5,000 next month. If you believe that, please leave your social security number below and we will have a conversation after this event. So, guys, again, thank you so much for being here. Take the time to really look at this, how this can apply for your business, and ask us any questions. Email me, doc@thetoolkitagency.com, or go to thetoolkitagency.com for more information. And again, AJ, thank you so much for your time and for being here this afternoon with us.
Thank you, Doc. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Take care, and we'll see you later in the summit. And remember, take notes and start executing now.